live from the Counterpunch Media Mobile Studios in Grand Blanc, Michigan. It's time for real lives, real families, real fitness. It's time for Derek Noel Fitness.
And we are live, apparently. There we go. Just making sure that everything is running so that I could see what all of the lovely people listening are doing this fine Sunday night. We've been out for a little bit. It's been a hot minute. I think it's been a full 5 weeks since we've done a show. That sounds about right. We have a little bit to cover. We have a lot going on. We had a lot going on. So, real quick, in case you are new to this page, in case you're new to these videos, I am Derek Noel Fitness, live show going on right now. This is an every Sunday night thing, every Sunday night at 8 p.m., I should say, getting back into the swing of actually talking about things. And every week I have something different going on, so a different topic. I've had a couple interviews that I would love to do some more of now that I'm back, and I'll get into that in a second. But first and foremost, if you're excited to have me back, I want to see it down in the comments, and I would love if you could share this live feed on your Facebooks, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're listening on IPM Nation, if you could let Matt know how excited that you are that I'm back, or going over to my Facebook page and give me a like and a follow, that would be really appreciated. Or if you could even just go over onto the YouTube page, which the link is in the video I posted earlier. I will edit it into the comments on this. Actually, I'll just edit it right into the description. But real quick, while you're doing those things, let's just talk about, where's Derek been? That's a good question. Where have I been? Honestly, I've been all over the world over the past couple weeks. I got back about a week and a half ago from a trip to Australia and the Philippines, where I spent a week of each, which those 2 weeks were spent with family, and it was really nice. It was a really nice unplug from everything else going on, and it was a really nice mental reset for me. Now, Derek, you're a fitness guy. Did you work out? I worked out once, and I'll say probably a half time. We're going to put it at 1.5 times that I worked out the entire trip, and I didn't track a single thing that I ate either. And honestly, that's kind of what the show is about today, is sometimes we get so lost in our nutrition and our fitness that we don't realize how far in we are until we really try and reel ourselves out of it, and we don't. And sometimes those breaks are really nice. So today's show is honestly going to be about different ways to disconnect and not track your macros. Anyone knows me, I am really big into macronutrient tracking. I feel like, and there are a lot of other things that show that macronutrient tracking is the most effective way to lose weight for a lot of people, and not just lose weight, but get stronger and just improve and change your body composition overall. Tracking those macronutrients basically just makes sure that you have everything. One thing that drives me insane, actually, is when I hear someone go, "Oh, I'm on macros," as like a diet. And macros stands for macronutrients. It's not a macro diet. If it fits your macros is kind of a diet, but macronutrients by themselves are not. They're just arbitrary. I shouldn't say arbitrary, because they are calculated numbers that are set to provide optimal intakes for proteins, carbs, and fats. That's all it is. It's not a diet. It's just numbers that you're hitting in your diet. And diet doesn't mean that I'm trying to lose weight. The diet is literally, what am I eating? So whenever you're dieting, there's been something going around saying to stop using the word diet because it's triggering to other people. But then what happens if I ask, what's your diet? Like, what do you, as a coach, if I ask what your diet is, I'm not asking if you're doing South Beach diet or if you're doing Atkins or keto or anything like that. I really don't care if I'm asking you that question. I'm asking what types of food you're eating. Literally, what is your diet? That's all I'm asking. So when we're going through these things, we need to make sure that we're on an even playing field and we know what terms mean. What's your diet doesn't mean, are you doing keto? No, I don't care. Are you in a calorie deficit? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And again, calories take part into macros, but calories are above macros. If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to lose body fat, calories are king. There's actually a really good video that's going to be coming out next week from another guy named Jordan Syatt. He is the personal trainer for Gary Vee, if you know who that is. He just got done eating a Big Mac a day for 30 days to prove that calories are king when it comes to fat loss. He lost 7 pounds while he was doing it. Does that mean you should eat Big Macs every day? No, don't. You should be eating nice nutrient-dense foods, meaning foods that have a lot of micronutrients that are actually really good for you. Things like sweet potatoes and stuff like that, instead of just like the empty breads all the time. Because there really aren't that many micronutrients, things that are good for you. I shouldn't say good for you, things that are going to help you in those empty carbs as much as things like sweet potatoes and stuff like that. So now that I've kind of gone off onto a nice ramble, as I'm known for, I'm going to kind of pull this back. I am a very big proponent of tracking macronutrients, tracking macros. People who work with me typically find that out fairly quickly because really it is the best, it is the most effective way to keep track and make changes in your nutrition. You can fine-tune things, and changing those numbers will change what you're actually eating. It makes sure that you know exactly what's going on into your body. That's really all it does. And that being said, why would you ever stop that? There are a few different reasons to stop tracking your macros. Number one, for me, I went on vacation. You just need a break. Sometimes it can be really mentally grinding, tracking, measuring things. I know some people who carry food scales with them when they go on vacation because they still want to weigh everything and they still want to stay super on track. If you're one of those people, that means you probably need to take a break from it more than ever. I'm not saying you should permanently stop, but also tracking macros isn't something you should do forever. It's more of a shorter term thing to make sure you hit a goal, and then you can scale it back once you hit that goal. So if you're trying to gain weight, for example, maybe you don't need to track your macros as strictly. As long as you know that you're eating over a certain amount, or you know that you're getting your proteins in. For example, if you are trying to gain weight, make sure you get your protein in, and then your carbs and fats can honestly be wherever you want, as long as you're in a calorie surplus. So for me, that would be eating 180 grams of protein. Then if I'm trying to gain weight, honestly, as long as I'm keeping within a range of calories, then I'm tracking calories instead of macros after that, then I'm good. It can really be grating mentally having to wake up, having to measure your food, especially if you're like me. I just make food or have food and then eat leftovers. I'm a really big fan of leftovers. I love leftovers. Having to weigh those all the time. For me, it's second nature. I literally just have my scale and put my plate on it and then just put my foods on, and I basically bada bing, bada boom, done. Other people don't do it as quickly or as effectively, or they're not as used to it, so it takes a lot more out of them mentally in order to do it. They feel like it's a drag. They have to wait. They have to measure this stuff. Oh man, if I'm eating this right now, then I'm not going to be able to eat that later. Those kinds of things, just mentally, long-term, can really start to wear you down. Number two, you have a history of disordered eating. So if you have had previous eating disorders, tracking macros is not honestly the best idea. Unless you are well over that, but a lot of people are never really over that. They just kind of hinder it over time. That history of disordered eating, especially things like bulimia and stuff like that, are really serious issues, and honestly you should be talking to a psychologist before you talk to a guy like me. But if you are talking to a guy like me, then you need to let us know that's what's going on so that we can give you guidelines to follow that won't lead back into that. Because if you feel like, oh man, I'm just going to, if I'm eating less, if I eat less and exercise more, I'm going to lose more weight. While that may be true, that's not going to be good for you long term, because then all of a sudden, if you have that history of disordered eating and you start to fall into that trap, all of a sudden you aren't eating and you're exercising for 5 hours a day, your body's going to shut down. it's not going to want to do anything. Your injury risk is going to go way up because it's not able to repair itself, because guess what? Foods help you repair yourself. You're going to be tired, and you probably won't see the results that you want because you're losing a lot of muscle mass while you're losing that weight too. There's a difference between losing weight and losing fat, which a lot of people don't realize. They go, oh, I'm going to eat 600 calories. Okay, you'll definitely lose weight while you're doing that because, by the way, fun fact, starvation mode doesn't exist. If you're eating 600 calories, you're just going to be losing a lot of muscle mass, and you'll just become very, very frail over the long term. And if anyone wants to fight me on starvation mode, there are a few different events in history that really prove that starvation mode doesn't exist, or else those people would have never been in the health situation that they were in. So really make sure that you're getting your information from a reputable source. And it can be kind of hard, especially on Instagram now, where everyone is throwing just random things at the wall and being like, look, I'm an expert, and they have zero training in whatever they're trying to preach or a lot of times sell. Fear-mongering has become a really big thing on Instagram when trying to sell things. So really make sure that you guys know, and I know I'm going off on another tangent here, but again, I haven't seen anyone for 5 weeks on this show, so I really want to make sure that that I'm getting everything that's been going through my head off my chest. Just getting it out of there. Number 4, why you should stop tracking or not track. You're in a social situation. If you are too worried about what you're eating to be able to enjoy the time that you're spending with friends, you've lost control over what's going on in here. Enjoy that time with your friends. You can always kind of try and figure out what you did later and work on it later. Even if you are tracking your macros to a T, if you're in a big social situation, honestly, don't worry about it so much. That one meal isn't going to ruin your progress at all. So a lot of people think like, oh man, I just ate a burger because there was nothing else that was good on this menu at this restaurant, and oh my god, now my entire day is ruined, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to gain 7 pounds off of eating this one hamburger. It's going to be terrible, and it's going to take me forever to get it off. If your diet is already mostly on in the first place, you won't have that problem. That one meal isn't going to make you gain 7 pounds. If you go out and you eat like an asshole and you smash 5,000 calories in a day, every single day, and then you have a burger and you're worried about that one burger making the difference, then that's where we're running into some problems, and that's what needs to be fixed. Most people don't need 5,000 calories in a day unless you're trying to gain weight again. So keep that in mind whenever we're going through that. The last one is if you eat the same things every single day, so say you eat the same amount of rice, the same amount of chicken, the same amount of broccoli. I know that sounds like such an exciting meal. If you're eating those same things every day, you don't need to keep measuring it over and over and over again. You know what you're eating. You know that your diet is pretty set. Why waste the time tracking it if you already have those things down? So there are a few different things we can do instead of tracking macros. We're going to take care of that after the break. First, we're going to jump down and we're going to see what is going on in some of the comments. Heidi says, "Yeah, you're back." I sure am, and we're gonna have a good time with this one. And we are also going to check to see, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been 5 weeks getting used to this again. We are checking the lives on the page itself too. If you have any questions, make sure you're dropping them down so I can see it, because I want to be able to see these things while we're going through. And it looks like not too much is going on. So we're going to take our break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what we can do instead of tracking macros, some different ways that will help you out.
You're listening to Derek Noel Fitness here on IPMNation.com/counterpunch. He'll bring the smarts. Now the sweat, well, that's up to you.
And we are back. Hello and welcome back. We're having a good time. I'm kind of rolling through here. It's kind of hot in the studio today. This is a great time. I'm starting to break a sweat just talking up here. Has nothing to do with the lights that are bearing on me. You know how it goes. So we were just talking about what tracking macros can do, why I think it's good, but also why you might want to stop or not track macros. One thing that I did forget to mention is tracking macros is about a stage 4 or 5 thing. I don't really like starting people out doing it. I like working our way into it. So if you did want to track macros, again, the show is all about not doing it. But if you wanted to track your macros, the best thing to start with, and you've never done it before, period, the best thing to do is just to start with calories and then protein. So having a calorie number, and then you kind of want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. And then after that, you can add your carbs and fats. And if you're worried about a ratio on the carbohydrates and the fats, don't worry about that ratio so much because it's really not important for most people. As long as you're somewhere in between and it's a scale, you'll be fine. What can we do instead of actually counting macros, though, and tracking our macros and putting every single little thing in MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or whatever it is? We have a few different options. Number one is eat intuitively. This is what I turn to after I have a slightly prolonged period of tracking macros, just because it's a nice little mental step back. Eating intuitively is kind of what it sounds like. It's when you just go ahead and eat, and it's really, really good when you can pay attention to the signals that your body is saying, whether you're hungry, whether you're not hungry, whether you're thirsty or not, and really trying to figure that out and being able to tell the difference between emotional and physical hunger and all of those things. It works best if you can stop yourself, to be honest. You can snack on the things that you want, have a bite or two of something. That grazing, just make sure that you're aware that you're doing it. If you're smashing a full 3 or 4 meals and you're grazing on everything that you see, then we can start to run into some issues. But if you want a bite of a brownie, have that bite of a brownie. Again, that one bite's not going to mess with you. If you're eating half a tray of brownie because you can't stop yourself, that's a whole other issue that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But eating intuitively is honestly really what most people should get to. Tracking macros should only be a short-term solution, and then you should switch into this, where you don't really worry exactly how many grams of protein, exactly how many grams of carbs, and exactly how many grams of fats you're getting, because honestly, it doesn't matter so much. Just knowing where you're at about and being aware of, especially if you're just coming off of tracking your macros, you know what that amount of chicken is, you know what that amount of rice is, you know that, oh hey, I'm eating like a half a cup of rice, okay, I should be pretty good there. And just figuring that out and being aware of it, that's how intuitive eating works. This can also work if you've never tried dieting before ever in your life and being more aware of what you're doing. I like tracking foods just starting out for a week or two so you could see, oh crap, I didn't realize that I'm eating a half a bag of chips every day, or I didn't realize that between 9 and 11 p.m. I'm going out and I'm buying $15 worth of junk food every single night. I should probably stop doing that. And it's really good to help pick out those things, but also eating intuitively. Sometimes people are bored eaters. If you start asking yourself, am I hungry, before you grab that bag of chips, are you going to grab that bag of chips? Or are you just grabbing that bag of chips because you're bored or because you're stressed out about something and that's something that you do? So eating intuitively is like the big number one that I really recommend that everyone goes back to after a period of dieting or losing weight or anything like that. Just eat how you feel you should be eating. And again, don't eat like an a-hole. Just make sure that you're staying on track mostly and eating those foods that are healthy. If you just have a food list and you go, man, I'm going to eat that, that, and that, and that's my meal, and that's my balanced meal, awesome. You're doing it right. Number two is to go by portions. So one of the downsides of macros is macronutrients are invisible. You can't just look at a piece of chicken and go, oh, hey, there's this many grams of protein in it. I've been a member of some Facebook groups before, actually, that were macro-based and said to get 25 grams of chicken, or 25 grams of protein from chicken, and the people were putting literally 25 grams of chicken on a scale, going, wow, really, this is the only amount of chicken I eat, rather than weighing out that 25 grams is probably like 3.5 ounces of chicken, which is a lot more than 25 grams, and then they go, oh, I get it now. So going by portions can be really good too. It makes a lot more sense to go, I'm eating 3 ounces of chicken rather than 24 grams of protein, especially if you're in a conversation with another normal person who doesn't talk in food lingo and who doesn't talk in macros. If you say eating 24 grams of protein, they're probably going to look at you and be like, how much chicken is that? Like, really though? Like, how much Greek yogurt is that? You're eating, holy crap, you're eating 25 grams of protein from Greek yogurt? That's a lot of yogurt. By the way, that is a lot of yogurt. It's like a full cup and a half of yogurt. That's like, if you buy one of those big like Oikos or Chobani tubs, 25 grams of protein is like 1.5 cups of yogurt, and you'll down that entire container in like 3 days if you eat it once a day. You probably won't even have enough for your last serving. It's a lot of yogurt. So it can really be hard to account for those macros, like I was saying. Just make sure you are weighing, not really weighing, just measure it. If you're not used to anything at all, if you've, again, never gone by portions before and it's something you'd like to try, instead of me saying 3 ounces of chicken, I can just hold up my hand, and in the palm of my hand is going to be about 3 ounces of chicken. Unless you have absolutely tiny hands, it's going to hold true for most people. If you just hold open your hand and that palm, that's a pretty good portion size of protein for whatever you're eating. So if you're listening to the audio, open your hand, stare at your hand, look at it for a second, and go, that much meat. Or if you're vegan, we need to talk about doing some different things, like tempeh or something like that, because those different numbers can be different. But if you eat meat, use your hands to be able to check where you're at in terms of serving sizes. If you're looking at fats, that can be a tablespoon, for example, is basically like the tip of your thumb. So boom, that's pretty good. If you're looking to, here's a cooking thing, if you're looking to make a julienne of like a carrot or something like that, take the last 2 knuckles of your index finger, and that's going to be right around 2 inches. Again, unless you have tiny little hands. You can bust out a measuring stick if you're really worried about it, but I have never gotten in trouble for using that measuring method in kitchens before, and it's worked out pretty well. That's my kitchen tip of the day. Number 3, I kind of talked about a little bit, avoiding trigger foods. I know every single person on earth has a trigger food. You can be Rob Lowe, you can be Chris Traeger from Parks and Rec. I guarantee you he has a trigger food. I have a few of them, for example. A big one for a lot of people that I know is pizza. And let's define a trigger food. A trigger food is basically one of those foods that causes you to just go way overboard. You lose all sense of self-control, and all of a sudden you are 7 slices of pizza in, and you look over and you see those breadsticks and you go, you're mine. That is what a trigger food is. I'm a really good example of that. I can say I'm only going to eat 1 slice of pizza, and then all of a sudden I'm like 6 or 7 slices in, and I feel like death, but man, it felt like it's worth it at the time. Little did I realize, actually I fully realized after the fact, that 1 slice of pizza is like 450 calories, and to multiply that by 7, all of a sudden I just ate my calorie intake for like a day and a half in one sitting, and man, did it feel amazing. But that's the problem. I just smashed so many calories that there's no way I'm going to be able to lose weight eating 7 slices of pizza in one sitting. It's just not going to happen. So the big thing is to avoid those trigger foods. If you have those foods in your house, so for example, if you have peanut M&Ms sitting out in your house, my girlfriend is going to laugh because she knows exactly what example this is. If you have peanut M&Ms sitting out in your house, and you know literally every single time you walk by that little dish, you're going to grab 1 or 2, and you're going to go, oh, it's only 1 or 2, it's only 2 M&Ms, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm eating intuitively, guys. This is fantastic. I can have peanut M&Ms and it's great. By the way, if you're eating intuitively, you can, as long as you're not eating an entire bag of M&Ms a day. And then all of a sudden, you just start finding reasons to, oh man, I'm just walking out to the kitchen. Oh, I might as well go grab a couple more peanut M&Ms. Oh, all of a sudden, again, I'm a full bag of peanut M&Ms in, but I've been good everywhere else. Why can't I lose weight? Well, probably shouldn't be smashing those peanut M&Ms. Get them out of your house. In terms of mental willpower, you can tell yourself you're not going to eat it all you want. You're going to eat it. If it's in your cupboard, you're going to eat it. Another good example for myself, because, you know, I'm also a human and I know that these things get me. This is a two-parter. I need two things in my house in order for this trigger food to actually happen for me. Number one, Chips Ahoy cookies. By themselves, I don't care. I can go without touching them, whatever. As soon as there's milk in my refrigerator, though, I will eat at least half of the entire box of Chips Ahoy in one sitting. Chances are I'm probably going to eat like 3/4 of it, and then my dad's going to look at me like I'm crazy. But I know that if both of those things are in the house, it's over for me. And in my head, I justify it by going, oh man, I'm just going to smash everything. Then it's not going to be in my house anymore, and I don't have to worry about it. And then another pack of Chips Ahoy cookies appears. So getting those things out of your house. If that's potato chips for you, I know potato chips are delicious. Stop buying them. Don't put them in your cart when you're at the grocery store. They're not going to end up at your house. And then all of a sudden you're not eating an entire bag of potato chips, and la-de-da, you're not eating a few 100 extra calories, and you are good to go. One last way to eat that is effective, and not for the reason that you would think, and I'll talk about that in a second, because there are, again, remember that little aside that I said at the beginning where people try and fearmonger and sell things on the internet based off of your fears? This is a good example of it, and it is intermittent fasting. This is number 4. Intermittent fasting has been lauded as like the next big way to bring you back in touch with your primal side, with this is how our ancestors ate, on top of paleo and eating foods and meat, by the way. But it's been lauded as like, oh, you do this and your stomach shrinks and it releases all these things that help cleanse your body and yada, yada, yada. Really, intermittent fasting works because you're giving yourself an 8-hour window to eat and a 16-hour window to not eat. And when you only have this much time, you're not going to eat outside of that window, which means you're more likely to create a calorie deficit. It's really hard to smash all of your calories into one area, especially if you're eating mostly right. So intermittent fasting is also a very, very good way to eat kind of intuitively, because you could just smash a rotisserie chicken and something else and you're good to go, like a rotisserie chicken and a sweet potato, and you're good to go. You can get some veggies in there and just eat for that 8-hour window, and when you don't, all of a sudden you are bringing yourself into a slight calorie deficit because you have less time to eat, which means you're also not snacking at night. So that's how intermittent fasting works. That's why it's good. There's actually no science that shows any fast shorter than like 48 hours is actually good for you at all. I am running short on time, so we're going to wrap this up. We're going to jump back to the feed. Everybody's just watching. Nobody's talking. I got a nice good squat in. By the way, in case you were wondering, I am back to exercising. I am back to work. This week, I am back to tracking everything that's going on. I was just kind of eating intuitively last week through another thing that we're doing for a 28-day challenge at Fit Buddy Bootcamp. I'm going to start actually tracking everything to make sure that I'm on point. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you give this a like, give it a share, throw a comment saying how much you enjoyed this, throw me a comment saying what you would like me to talk about in the future. Make sure you check me out on ipmnation.com/counterpunch for the audio later on, or DNF or ipmnation.com/DNF for the video version. You can also check out the YouTube link. Like I said, that will be in the description when this video is no longer live. And you are on facebook.com/TheDerekNoel, which is another place to find me. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.